Greetings, Kings. It's no secret that getting into firearms is expensive. You spend all this money on purchasing an actual quality rifle, pistol, etc., and then you realize, well, now I have to set the thing up. You need a sling, you need a light, you need an optic or a sighting system. At least that's what the internet tells you. After that, usually you get your rifle set up and now you need load-bearing equipment. You need to be able to carry magazines. You need to be able to carry gear while you're hiking through the woods or LARPing in your mom's basement. You need to be able to stop bleeds if you or the homies get shot. You need to be able to carry sustainment, communicate with others, things like that. Getting squared away with a lot of this equipment is also generally not cheap. And it's no secret that looking on the secondhand market, looking for Army surplus is a great way to save some money when you're looking to buy all of this peripheral gear for your firearms adventures and endeavors. But nobody really talks too much about where to find these deals. You know that look on the secondhand market, look for Army surplus. Those are all ways to save money. But there's many places you could look for those things, some better than others. And over the years, I have bought, sold, traded all sorts of items in regards to firearms. And I found some sites and locations that work really well for me, and some that I would generally steer people away from. And in today's video, I am going to collect all of that knowledge and experience over the past 10 years or so, and hopefully put it into an easily digestible video for you all. Oh, and before I forget, I'm not sponsored by anyone. This is the first video, first real video I'm gonna upload on YouTube. I am not in big Facebook Marketplace or big Army surpluses pocket. This is just my experience over 10 plus years of buying, selling, trading, and looking for deals as, well, as I'm sure a lot of you are. I am also balling on a budget.
SpongeBob, I see him.
Arms list. How the mighty have fallen. Arms list used to be, in my experience, in my area, used to be before it became pay to play, essentially. It was the premier place to go sell used guns, buy used guns. All, of course, within the limits and regulations of your local, state, and federal laws, of course. But it used to be great. It was free. It was very easy to make an account. The bar of entry was pretty low, so a lot of people were selling their used guns of usually lightly used condition or generally good prices. Now, of course, you would encounter FUDs and things like that, and I've heard from some homies that it was relatively sketchy for them at times. But in my experience back 5-ish years ago, back when Arms List did not require you to make an account, or you made an account but it was free, and you could have, I think, up to 3 listings with 3 pictures active at one time. Now again, people would milk it, of course, and put a bunch of listings on one actual listing, multiple pictures, multiple items, a list of items, of course. Not technically supposed to do it. I never saw anybody get in trouble for it, but back into the day, I had a very good time trading, learning about firearms, trying out different things on Arms List, and it has since fallen from that glory. And I understand that it was due to scammers, and that bar of entry being so low meant that there were scammers, probably people selling guns illegally, unfortunately. And I'm not blaming the people who own Arms List for forcing people to have a paid account. That being said, it really has drugged down the usefulness of Arms List. You gotta pay to make an account to sell items. That's going to really cut down on your options on people who want to get into the space, who are going to try to sell their guns for a low amount or just to get rid of them because now they got to pay to sell them. And I think that's going to turn a lot of people off, and a lot of people don't use Arms List anymore because of that. And the fact that now it's mostly dominated by local gun shops just promoting what they have for sale, which again isn't a bad thing, but when you're dealing with a for-profit organization, the deals aren't going to be nearly as nice as if you're dealing with a private party who's just looking to get rid of some things. So it really makes Arms List, it dropped it down a couple pegs on the hierarchy of places you could go to hunt for good firearm deals, especially for firearms specifically. That's what Arms List was all about. Firearms and ammo, optics and things like that, night vision, you can get a little bit into that too, but usually it was a great place to find used guns. And now I think Tax Swap has really taken the throne. Now again, Arms List isn't inherently a bad option now. If you want to buy and sell a lot of firearms and trade with people and if you're in a state in which, if you're in a 2A friendly state, a red state, Arms List still is doing well. You have to pay a little bit every month to, your membership fee, but in all honesty, it's still a good way to network with other people, do some trading, offload things for a better price that than you would get at, say, a gun show or at a gun store selling it used. And overall, arms list, if you're in a state in which it is, there's still a healthy community of people using it, it can be a good option. It's just definitely fallen from its grace and its kind of number one spot to be buying and selling used guns, in my opinion, in my experience. eBay serves as another good option when it comes to hunting for cheap firearms, accessories, and peripheral gear like we've been talking about. eBay is similar to Facebook Marketplace, but the bar of entry is a little bit higher. You actually need to make a separate account for eBay to be able to list things. There's a little more red tape, and there is much less of the face-to-face interactions and much more of the you pay for something, somebody ships it to you, which isn't inherently a bad thing. However, eBay is populated a bit more by army surplus dealers and stores and people who might, as a side hustle, be trying to sell items that were used or that are surplus or that are lightly used, overstock, things like that, and make a profit off of it, which there's nothing wrong with that. However, you'll notice that eBay generally has higher prices for things and usually a little more consistent prices for things when it comes to, in general, especially firearm stuff, lights, attachments, boxes of MREs, packs, red dots, attachments, rails, pistol grip, stocks, things like that. eBay is a really good option to buy lightly used and surplus higher end items, or I guess not very cheap items, because people aren't going to go out of the way to sell something for $10, $20, even if it's, that's half the price of what it goes for. Usually eBay is a great option to find optics, IR stuff, surplus gear, light, lasers that are on the higher end, backpacks and vests sometimes, plates, things that people will actually take the time to try to sell. Usually you won't be getting the insane deals that you might find on Facebook Marketplace in your local area or adjacent, but usually it's a good way to find a specific item or look for a specific item that you might buy from a retail store or an online distributor to see if somebody's got one for sale for a lesser amount. Or if you're a cloner fag or somebody who likes to reproduce stuff, there's a reproduce, oh my god, who likes to clone things. I guess reproduce would be the right term, right? We're not talking Grand Thumb reproduce, okay? But people who want to go for a clone look or a period correct thing, you could find discontinued red dots or optics, lights, handguards, pistol grips, all that type of stuff for generally a good price. Or even then, it's where a lot of people will sell those harder to find items. What are they? Quad rails, duckbill attachments for carry handles, carry handle rails, traditional old school style grips or stocks or slings. As an example, personally, I found the old legacy 2.5 power prism optic that Primary Arms used to make with their BDC in it before they moved to a more standardized reticle and went with their micro prism line. Back when they really only had one prism that they made, it was similar to an ACOG. Was able to pick one of those up, lightly used, like new condition, for about the same price as when they were being produced by Primary Arms. Surplus aim points are another good example. Bayonets, rooks, PEX, the old school PEX, the sight marks, the laser marks, those types of options that aren't really in current production. eBay is a great way to find those items, and usually for a good deal. eBay serves as kind of my second option I go to find a more refined item, something a little more specific, to see if people maybe bought it, didn't like it, and are throwing it up on the secondhand market for less than what I would pay full price MSRP, even on sale on certain websites. You'll find little deals like that where you can sometimes find additional items for something that is new or like new for the same price as it is brand new from the manufacturer, or other deals similar to Facebook Marketplace, but usually not quite as reduced in price. And usually you need to be a little more specific, and you will find army surplusers and people who are resellers, wholesalers, overstock sales that are using eBay to push their product. And again, nothing wrong with that, but you will have to wade through a bit more of that to find those deals that you're looking for or hoping to find on somewhere like Facebook Marketplace, or let's say getting lucky at a garage sale or gun show, which we will get into later on in the video. All right, you consumer zoomers, we're going to talk about surplus stores now, specifically online surplus stores. They're a bit different than in-person brick and mortar surplus stores, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of YouTubers that you watch rep them if you're in the space and in the know or long enough or autistically enough. You've got places like Americana Pipe Dream Apparel, Venture Surplus, Commando Store, ODG, LLC, I forget their name, Operational Detachment Guerrilla Gang LLC. Anyway, a lot of these stores are very similar. They purchase a bunch of military surplus they think they can make some money on, and then they sell it. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with that at all. I think that it is a legitimate business endeavor and that it's good on them for bringing a lot of foreign and US military surplus to the market rather than it being destroyed, burned, or handed out to, I'm not sure what the government does with their surplus if nobody buys it. Regardless though, these sites are generally a good resource as you know what you're getting. They sometimes have good deals, and you can find some more unique items that you wouldn't normally find in the US. I wouldn't say that online surplus stores usually are the absolute best deals out there. They're trying to make money, and there's nothing wrong with them trying to make money, but you aren't going to get any crazy steals most of the time on anything that's in super good condition. Now, that's not to say that there is no merit to buying things from them. They usually have a good stock of items, and they are very honest about the condition of the items, and it's a good way to get things that you might not be able to find on eBay or locally to you shipped to your door for a pretty good price. A lot of these stores also have unique items that they make, replicas, reproductions of gear long since past that might get your particular spectrum of the tism going. And I think that's really neat to see that these guys are going to go out there and actually make reproduction kit or kit inspired on movies, TV shows, and stuff for people to actually use and try out in the real world. That's a very noble and unique cause, and something that is very specific to online surplus stores. You won't be finding the most insane steals on them. They are, after all, there to make money, but you can absolutely find some consistent gear and find some things that you might not normally find on the US market. Now, brick and mortar surplus stores are a bit different. They tend to sell a lot of, in my experience, of course, a lot of Chinese garbage, a lot of knockoffs, some stuff that is meant for the civilian market that isn't US military at all, or military issued at all in general. There could be some good things from like Condor, Rothko, stuff like that. But again, you're gonna find a lot of Fox Tactical, a lot of Chinese knockoffs, Vietnamese knockoffs of things that really you would be better off spending your money on other gear or legitimate gear, even on the used market. That tends to be more prevalent and more common further away from military bases. And if you're close to a military installation, you can get some pretty good deals on Army surplus because there's so much of it and it's so easy to get and come by that all these shops pop up, and their profit margins can be so small because they're going to have a steady supply of surplus inventory coming in, and they're going to have a steady supply of people who want to buy it. So all in all, online stores can give you some unique options and some opportunities. You aren't going to be saving as much as if you go finding things local to you on the used market. But again, they're a great resource to have, and checking out your local surplus store to you usually isn't going to be any worse than just being cool to look at some of the stuff that they have. You may not buy anything, but you could at least go there, see what the difference is between real issued gear and some of the reproduction stuff, some of the knockoffs or the Chinese made things, and figure out if it's something that you're willing to cheap out on, which wouldn't really recommend generally speaking. Facebook Marketplace is low baller central. I'm sure we've all seen the memes. Facebook is getting pretty boomery right now. Despite that though, it is still one of the best options to look for gear and 2A deals, lights, lasers, slings, military surplus, USGI, pouches, load-bearing equipment, rucks, MREs, canteens, camel packs, all that type of stuff can be found on Facebook Marketplace. It is very area dependent, but the nice thing about Facebook Marketplace is you're not dealing with a company or a corporation that is attempting to make money. Like some of the other options we'll talk about on this list, Facebook Marketplace is usually one person selling an item or items that they either don't want anymore, that they bought, they barely used, and now they just want to get some money back, or things that they purchased and realized, maybe it's not for them, and they just want to recoup some of the funds that they invested in it, or maybe they've upgraded. That combined with the fact that Facebook itself as a website is so popular and prolific. Now, I get in the year of our Lord 2025, Facebook Marketplace isn't the absolute juggernaut of social media when it comes to the Zoomers out there and the cool kids, but most everyone has a Facebook. And Facebook Marketplace is built into Facebook. You don't need to really do anything extra besides take some pictures and create a listing to sell something on Facebook Marketplace. That means that almost wherever you live geographically, it could be in a city, it could be in the middle of nowhere, you could be in a blue state, a red state, near a military base, 300 miles from one, you will find at least something similar or in the same vein as what you're searching for or looking for. There is an absolute plethora of cheap items on Facebook Marketplace because the bar of entry is so low to get in. All you have to do is have a Facebook account and you have unlimited access to Facebook Marketplace. All the time you will find people who recently got out of the military and have some CIF or issued equipment that slipped through the cracks for whatever reason they still have or the Army didn't want back. Now they're just looking to get rid of it because it's of no use to them, or family members who have come across or inherited relatives or ex-significant others stash of military surplus or other items that they just want to get rid of. That makes it such a good opportunity and market to find cheap surplus gear in my experience. You can find sleep systems, backpacks, armor, Army issued things like PEC 15s, red dots, ACOGs, magazines. I mean, the list goes on of items that you can find well below even the used market on other sites like eBay or other secondhand locations like Arms List and Tax Swap. Part of it is people just want to get rid of things. They're not too interested in getting the absolute most for their dollar. They just want to downsize. They don't want these items anymore, and it's a great place to look and get steals for items that would otherwise cost you an arm and a leg or much more on other sites or other locations. Some examples I could think of off of the top of my head. I've gotten TLR series weapon mounted lights for pistols for about $100 in like new condition. I bought a set of ceramic shellback plates for a plate carrier from a guy, multi-curve, basically brand new, not knockoffs. I was able to confirm with the serial number. I was able to get my hands on them and inspect them. Level 4 plates, ceramic, multi-curve, maybe you're too old, no cracks, barely ever used, $100. I've been able to pick up magazines, magazine pouches, a rucksack for much cheaper than it would be on any military surplus site or any sort of site like eBay, or where people tend to have to put more effort into selling something. Therefore, they're going to do more research or price something more competitively because they had to do more to get it out there. Facebook Marketplace, the bar of entry is super low. People take a couple pictures, think, maybe they look up how much something is roughly worth, usually underball it a bit, just to get rid of it. That is a great environment to get good, affordable deals on really anything 2A. Not so much firearms themselves, because Facebook can be a little finicky and picky about what you list. And of course, exercise good judgment and respect for others when you're browsing. But by and large, Facebook Marketplace is an absolute mine, a gold mine for useful, affordable, good condition quality, surplus or lightly used secondhand items. And the nice thing about Facebook Marketplace is, as long as you are doing an in-person meetup, of course, exercise good judgment, meet in a public place, ideally a police station, things like that. But you can actually physically inspect an item before you purchase it and also talk to the person. It allows you to inspect an item, make sure it's legitimate, make sure the condition of it is what the seller is saying it is, inspect the wear that is shown in or not in the pictures, and communicate face to face with somebody and talk the business of the deal, make offers, things of that nature. Facebook Marketplace doesn't really have a very robust way to report scams, and it's very easy for people to get away with attempting a scam. So the fact that usually your interactions on Facebook Marketplace are going to be in person makes it a lot better for you to be that barrier and allows you to have that attention to detail and ensure that you are not getting scammed. Again, exercise appropriate judgment. Facebook Marketplace is not perfect. You might not find exactly what you're looking for, but it's a great place to find items likely adjacent to a specific item you're looking for or a specific type of item. Tons of great deals can be had on Facebook Marketplace, and it is not to be overlooked as a hub for boomers and lowballers. It is a great place to accumulate gear for a good price and have some good face-to-face interactions with people. Some people on Facebook Marketplace will be open to trades. Some people are very annoyed by it. Don't bug people offering them trades if they specifically say they're not open to it. But sometimes you will find people who are into 2A in the firearm space, into collecting gear, and they will be open to trading items that you might have for items that they have. And again, it all goes into working the deal, and we're not going to get into working deals out with people, but when you are on Facebook Marketplace, you are generally interacting on a more personal level, and that allows you to inquire more specifically about items, offer trades, make deals, and really have a good idea and understanding of what you're buying.
And I have a shotgun. Let me prove it.
Gun shows used to be the greatest place to trade. Now it's just the greatest way to get ripped off. Gun shows are by and large completely normie ruined. It's mostly fuds and bubbas who know what they got and are trying to sell their crappy milsurp collection for far more than it's worth, or people trying to peddle the most crappy Chinese knockoff or cheap parts imaginable to people who don't really know any better, nor do they care. 90% of gun shows, in my experience so far, just garbage quality items, straight up Chinese knockoffs of things being sold to people who don't know better. Cheap, lowest bidder ARs, AR parts, uppers, lowers, bolt carrier groups. I'm talking rebranded PSAs, Anderson DPMS, just cheap stuff like that, which isn't inherently a bad thing, but people generally who are buying that stuff don't know what they're getting, and usually they don't care, so it really doesn't matter too much. You also get a lot of army surplus or old military surplus weapons and people selling cheap knockoffs of things. Occasionally you can find some good deals at a gun show, and I think that if you go to a gun show understanding that it's going to be mostly garbage, but you might find some unique stuff, you might be able to make some cool trades, you might have people who actually are there just to get rid of some things or are there to see what they can sell and actually have competitive prices, then you might walk away with some cool items. And I think the experience of being able to go there with some homies, have a good time, buy some overpriced crappy food, and see what it's all about, it's a good attitude to have. And you might find some people who genuinely are selling some interesting items. Usually, though, you're going to have to wade through a lot of buds selling their crappy antiques and gun shops peddling the most garbage anodized parts and cheap fake red dots to people who just don't know any better. If you made it this far in the video, I want to say, for one, I hope you enjoyed it. And two, I hope that you genuinely were able to take something away from it and learn something from this. I hope that I was able to provide some good advice when it comes to saving some money and finding good deals on firearms, accessories, gear, and things of that nature. This is a lot of information that I wish people had told me, or I wish I had known when I was first getting into firearms, or maybe when I was looking at making a bigger purchase and wanted to get something of quality, but didn't necessarily want to spend full price on things. And it costs a lot to spend your hard-earned cash on firearm stuff. The thing, this hobby can be very expensive. So anything that I can do to make the community spend less of their hard-earned cash and make their money go further for them, I think is hopefully beneficial and entertaining for everyone involved. I have to get the flat-footed squat one. Oh!